Hey, I want to give a huge shout out to Laurie-Ann because working with her has completely changed how I approach speaking. I'm not a stranger to public speaking at all. I've done plenty of it, but I've never worked with a speaking coach before. And let me tell you, the difference between going it alone and working with Laurie-Ann, night and day. She helped me develop my signature speech, and not only did it highlight my expertise and authority really well, but it converted 60% of my audience onto my email list. 60%. And did I mention, thanks to her, I landed my first paid speaking gig. Lorianne's signature speech framework made it so easy to put together a talk that opened with a bang, kept my audience engaged, and most importantly, made it effortless for them to take the next step with me. She is an absolute pleasure to work with. Super smart, really strategic, and honestly, just so much fun to be around. So, if you're on the fence about working with her, do it. You'll wonder why you waited so long. Thank you, Lorianne.
Hey, have you ever hosted a workshop, spoken at a networking event, or delivered a webinar that you thought was pretty good? As a matter of fact, you're pretty proud of yourself, except it didn't lead to any new clients. And you're wondering what happened, that you shared great information. Why didn't anybody sign up to work with you? Well, here's the truth that nobody is going to tell you. Speaking isn't just about delivering information, it's about building trust, sparking curiosity, and positioning yourself as the expert that your audience has been looking for. Because remember, your audience, anybody who says yes to being in the room with you, is a potential client. Today, I want to pull back the curtain, so to speak, on how to turn every talk that you give into more opportunities, whether that's clients or being asked to speak in other places. Whether you're speaking in a room full of people, you're on a virtual stage, or introducing yourself at a networking event. The strategies that I'm going to share with you today are going to help you make sure that your message doesn't just land, but it hits people's hearts and it turns into leads. So stick with me because this one is about to change the way that you think about speaking and speaking for your business. I'm Laurie-Ann, your host, and you are listening to Be in Demand. This is the podcast all about public speaking because speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. Okay, so today I got 3 tips for you, and in no particular order. Number 1 is the power of positioning yourself as an expert. And that's what being the speaker does for you because all eyes are on you. And whenever you are speaking, your audience raised their hand to say yes to being with you. They said yes because they're interested in your topic. They said yes because they've heard you speak before. They said yes because they anticipate having this pain, or maybe they currently have the pain that you solve. So everybody who's in your audience has already raised their hand and said yes. They are spending time with you, or they even bought a ticket, or they didn't buy a ticket, so to speak, but they're part of a mastermind that you were speaking in. They're part of an association that they had to pay their membership for. So time and money is being exchanged. And let's face it, we can make more money, but we can't make more time. So you are the expert that these people are coming to hear. So when you show up to speak, your goal isn't to be the most entertaining or the smartest person in the room. It's to build trust and establish yourself as the go-to expert in your field. Now, there are lots of speaking coaches out there. I will admit that. But guess what? I have a very unique experience. First of all, I'm a reformed painfully shy girl who couldn't even make eye contact with people and taught my nervous system new tricks. So that's part of my uniqueness, but also that I come from the professional speaking world. So I'm not somebody who thinks speaking is good for your business. This is actually how I grew my business. When I left corporate, I just kind of said yes to a speaking opportunity before I was even ready. And I showed up and I served. And then people came up to me and were like, "So do you have a website? Do you work with clients?" And I thought it was a fluke, except it happened again. And I wasn't even a good speaker back then. I just look back on it like so many mistakes. But that's the thing. I shared that with my audience. So think about your uniqueness. Because sure, there are other experts in your industry, but I want you to show up as you are the person who is the answer to that audience. You're the person that they have been looking for. So when you are crafting your speech, I want you to start with this question. What problem is my ideal client losing sleep over right now? What is the problem that this audience is having? That's something that you should be asking whoever is hiring you to come in and speak. What is the problem that they are experiencing that I can help with my speech to teach them? And then I want you to frame yourself as the expert. Like, here are the tips. Here's what you need to do to overcome this pain or problem. You teach them what they need to do, how exactly they do it. Well, that's where they would hire you because you can't possibly teach everything in a 45, 60-minute presentation. And that's a line that I actually use in my speeches. I can't possibly teach you in 60 minutes everything that I have learned and experienced by being a professional speaker for the past 25 years. And that's when I invite them to whatever my call to action is. I drop these little subconscious seeds in my speech so that I am mentioning, don't worry, there's something that I'm going to have for you at the end. So they are anticipating it. But the other way that you position yourself as the expert is an authority section. And your authority section should not be like you're reading off some very boring resume. No, no, it should be very conversational, but still give the audience, like, this is why I'm here. This is why you should listen. This is where my experience comes in handy for the problem that you are experiencing. So that's tip number one is we want to position you as the expert. Hey, I just want to pause the show here for a moment. There are moments in your life and in your career when how you speak changes everything that happens next. That might be on a stage. It might be in a meeting room where you know you need to speak up. It might even be a sales conversation, a podcast interview, or a room full of people who need to see you as the leader that you already are. Speaking is not just a professional skill, it's a leadership skill. It's how you share ideas, you build trust, and you open doors that don't open any other way. I help people speak with confidence, clarity, and purpose so that they can create the opportunities, the visibility, and the impact that they want. And if you're ready for that, I want to invite you to book a speaker success call with me at speakandstandout.com/speaker success. That link will be down below. During that call together, we will pinpoint exactly where your communication is costing you, whether that's opportunities, visibility, or the promotion that you should already have. And we will map out what you need to do next. That link is down in the show notes, or you can go directly to speakandstandout.com/speaker success and grab a spot on my calendar. So back to the show. And I also want you to have the mindset of why you are there, that you are the expert in the room, that you are here to serve this audience, which leads me into tip number two, which is speak to serve, not to sell, and you will still attract clients. When you come from a place of serving instead of what can I get out of this, it's a whole different feel. And your audience is going to feel that in their hearts, in their minds, in their souls. Like they're just going to feel that you are serving them and not trying to sell to them. We don't want them to feel like they're in a used car lot with a used car salesman. We've all been there, done that, because the best talks never feel like a pitch. As a matter of fact, this is the reason why so many association meeting planners are going to say no pitching. You can't pitch your products because they've had a bad experience where somebody came in and gave an infomercial. And then they heard about it afterwards, especially if they bought a ticket to the conference and wasn't expecting that, especially if they paid membership dues. It's like, I spent time to come here to this particular session, and it was just an infomercial. Like, they're gonna be very disappointed, and so you don't wanna do that because then you won't have people raving about you, remembering you, or referring you. So I want you to speak to serve, and this is where you are giving really good value, helping that audience walk away with something tangible. Every time I've spoken, I have always, always wanted my audience to walk away with one or two gold nuggets that they could implement right away. Nothing complicated. And the funny thing is this is exactly what will make people want to work with you. Simplicity, and you are giving value, because then they're gonna wonder, like, if this was free, what's it like to work with them? What would I learn? So again, when you have your little call to action, whether it's to download a PDF, it's to book a call with you, people are going to be raising their hands. Another way to speak to serve and give really great value is to tell personal stories about how you have helped certain clients. And I would choose stories that your audience is experiencing, like they can relate to that story. So, one of the stories that I tell is about Kim, who was afraid of speaking, but hired me anyways, even though her friends thought she was nuts. But she didn't want to let this fear of speaking continue to follow her around. But when I talk about Kim, I say she was an entrepreneur who left her corporate job. She was a busy mom with twins, and she also had a service-based business. She was a home organizer. So that story alone, like, people start checking the boxes. I've got kids. I was in corporate. So those are those relatable stories. So start to think about the stories that are going to help your audience overcome objections. And this is something that I talk about inside In Demand Signature Speech. We find the right stories to be placing in your speech. As a matter of fact, I was once speaking and a gentleman did book a call with me. He's one of the fellow speakers of that particular event, and he said, "I don't know what you did, but I wanna know how you did that because I don't have the money right now, and I'm on a call with you, and I wanna work with you." And he did find a way to work with me and joined in Demand Signature Speech. Those are the sort of stories that we want to inject in our presentation. And the third tip I wanna give you is to craft a message that sticks. And this is your repeatable phrase, or what I call your onstage catchphrase. It's something that you say over and over and over again, and people start to get it. In other words, what you're doing is you're teaching your audience, like, this is like my one-liner. For me, you've heard me say this, speaking's the fastest way to grow your business. If I happen to be talking about building your email list, speaking's the fastest way to grow your email list. Like, it's very interchangeable. But I've had other clients, they come up with theirs. One woman was a nutritionist. So her repeatable catchphrase was nutrition starts before the meal. And maybe that made you stop and think. And it wasn't just my pause, by the way, but it made you stop and think nutrition happens before the meal. And it really does. It's about, like, how do we teach kids about food so that when they're sitting down at a meal, what do they think about the spinach? What do they think about the ice cream? What do they think about their different snacks? So we want your repeatable phrase to be something that you repeat again and again and again throughout your signature speech. In other words, this is part of my in-demand methodology, is that when you are giving a point, you are acting like a lawyer and you have to defend that point. And at the end of it, you can be using your repeatable phrase. So for me, at the end of each point, I'm going to be saying, speaking's the fastest way to grow your business. Or I might say, because speaking's the fastest way to grow your business. By the end of my presentation, by the end of my signature speech, my audience is repeating it with me. That's when you know you have done a really good job. But you say it again and again and again. And if you've been following me on social media, you'll see me say this again and again, because speaking's the fastest way to grow your business. It's something that I believe in. I will die on this hill because that's how strong of a belief I have that speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. So, repeatable phrase is something that you should be thinking about if you don't already have one. Write mine out and you'll see the different components of it. Speaking is the vehicle on how I help people get from point A to point B, being invisible to visible. Speaking is the fastest. So there's some sort of an adjective. And then it's what is the desired result. So that's a formula essentially for a repeatable phrase. It doesn't always have to follow that formula, like Belinda's that I shared earlier, which is nutrition starts before the meal. But nutrition is her vehicle to help clients go from point A to point B. It just doesn't have the big giant adjective. So hopefully that helps you start thinking about your repeatable phrase, your catchphrase that you can use again and again and again. Speaking does not have to be intimidating or complicated. It's about showing up and sharing what you know and serving the people who need to hear your message. And guess what? You're already capable of that. You just need the tools to structure and deliver an amazing presentation. And I want you to be proud of the speech that you craft, proud to deliver it, confident knowing that it is a 3 C's that leads to the 3 R's. So I want you to be confident that it is compelling, captivating, and most importantly, converting so that you leave your audience with the 3 R's because I want them to be raving about you, remembering you, and most importantly, referring you to other speaking opportunities, referring you to friends who have the problem that you solve. And if you're ready to take this to the next level, I'd love to help you craft your own client attracting signature speech because the doors to my in-demand signature speech program are open. And this is where we go deep into everything that we've talked about today, plus a whole lot more. But either way, your audience is waiting for you. So get out there and speak. So until next week, I want you to be in demand.